Hello, and welcome to episode 2 of Asian Battle Royale. This time we're just going to get right into this story. If you missed it in the last episode, China and India teamed up to invade a couple of countries, which sparked the Anti-Aggression Alliance, which is this mustard yellow alliance, to team up against them. The Arab Accords, which were signed between first Saudi Arabia and Iraq and then later Lebanon and Qatar, forced Israel and Iran to reluctantly sign an alliance with each other against them. And Azerbaijan and Armenia are still hating each other, and Korea is looking towards a path of reunification. So that's the stuff that happened in the last episode, but now let's get right into it. And the first thing that's going to happen is pretty sad, no matter who you are. Even if this isn't your country, this is not the way you want a country to go out, but global warming is getting worse, and a massive tsunami is going to hit the Maldives that wipes out a lot of their infrastructure and kills like a lot of their civilians. A lot of people will evacuate from the Maldives, and the Maldives will never recover and will slowly just succumb to the climate change. And although they don't probably die within the span of this episode or the next few, that is eventually how they will stop existing as a country. And the thing that starts it happens in this episode, so I just went ahead and erased them from the map. The Anti-Aggression Alliance is busy recruiting new members, and this time Tajikistan understands the threat posed by China, given what just happened, and so they will join it, as well as Laos, being one of the like 4 countries that borders China, and or India that isn't part of the Anti-Aggression Alliance. Over in Korea, I want to correct myself. I said last episode that Kim Jong-un was the leader of Korea, but I want relations to reset, so we're just going to say that it's a different leader of Korea who's just as autocratic and is very similar, but not the exact same person. Because this new leader is getting sick, and it looks like he might die. And the leader of South Korea is talking with people inside of North Korea, basically diplomats who are technically officially on relations with South Korea, but they're supposed to be advocating on behalf of the leader of North Korea, but they're not. They want power for themselves, and so the leader of the diplomats that they sent to South Korea basically organizes and gets ready to stage a coup against, and invade North Korea, and basically act as a puppet leader for South Korea whenever whenever their leader dies, and then their leader does die from the disease they got. Pretty quickly, South Korean troops march into North Korea, and they claim that this is liberation, and it kind of is, but it's also kind of not. Right before it ends, China gets in on the action so that they can get a piece of North Korea for themselves, and North Korea has been divided up. So let's see what happens with this. So I didn't know how to draw a puppet state, but what I decided to do is make South Korea lime green and just make North Korea light green, so you can kind of see North Korea is now a puppet of South Korea. And South Korea is going to try and get North Korea to cooperate now that they have a puppet on the throne, I guess is the word I would use, even though it's not really like a king. They have a puppet supreme leader in North Korea, but I'm not sure how willing that puppet would be to just go under South Korea's jurisdiction. So for now, South Korea won't do anything about it and won't press them. Azerbaijan's invasion of Armenia is going to go a little bit south in this episode as Armenia pushes into the northern parts of Azerbaijan, which were left a bit undefended. And Azerbaijan will decide to retreat from parts of their occupied territory to retake some land. And the exclave that Azerbaijan has will be quickly and swiftly taken by Armenia. And now Armenia is on the offensive. However, Azerbaijan will strike back, invading into the north of Armenia, and Armenia will push back, and there will be a fierce battle over here. But eventually, Armenia will decide to retreat from a lot of the Azerbaijani territory they had invaded into in the first place. And Iran is not liking that there's a conflict right on their border. Georgia isn't liking either, but what are they going to do about it? And the answer to that question is they're going to join the Middle Eastern Peace Alliance. But as for Azerbaijan and Armenia, Iran will basically tell them to cut it out or else. But they won't cut it out, and Iran is going to not do anything about it. Jordan just joined the Arab Alliance, as did Yemen. And it seems the Arab Alliance is looking to grow their alliance even further. But Oman will actually join the Middle Eastern Peace Alliance, which was not expected because their government was actually really divided. And actually, fairly quickly, rebels in the western parts of Oman will start declaring their allegiance to the Arab Alliance. They're kind of like Arab nationalists. So Oman is already in a civil war, and the rebels are being supported by the Arab Alliance, and the Middle Eastern Peace Alliance is supporting the main government of Oman. So it's kind of like a proxy war. The UAE and Syria both declare their neutrality, as well as Palestine. Afghanistan is having revolts against their Taliban government, specifically in the panhandle that borders them with China, as well as in the south of the country near Pakistan. These rebels are quickly revealed to have been funded by Pakistan, after which Afghanistan tries to declare war on Pakistan, but it doesn't really end up working out, as Pakistan now officially is funding the rebels and basically declares war on Afghanistan. The Taliban is going to actually be quite difficult to defeat. Who would have known? Who would have guessed? However, Tajikistan will also officially join in on this combat, helping out Pakistan by occupying the eastern parts, which allows Pakistan to remove their troops to the western parts. Meanwhile, Turkmenistan will third party, trying to get their own land out of it, and they'll do pretty well. Turkmenistan, by the way, is a super dictatorial government, basically like North Korea. They're just a little bit less bad, so they're less talked about. They're also less crazy. Afghanistan is not looking very good, and the leader of the Taliban is going to be assassinated by other members of the Taliban who think he's doing a bad job. And it turns out he wasn't doing a great job, because the new members have a pretty good round of gaining against especially Turkmenistan, who even gets invaded into, but also the other powers. And after this, Tajikistan is scared into leaving the war, and just basically keeping the same borders as before. And Pakistan is not really able to recover from this. So even as Turkmenistan slowly pushes Afghanistan out of their borders, Afghanistan will offer a peace treaty to Pakistan that Pakistan will find acceptable. If you're wondering what happened with Turkmenistan, they signed a separate peace with Afghanistan after the peace between Afghanistan and Pakistan, because they realized that they weren't going to be able to win against Afghanistan alone. And Afghanistan might have just pulled a very good trick, because they just got rid of all of their rebellious territories without risking a wider revolution or civil war, and so they got to keep their government in power, with only their leader having been assassinated by their own government anyway. Pakistan grows a bit more powerful, and Pakistan will also officially join the Anti-Aggression Alliance, which Turkmenistan is actually going to be suspended from, so I'm going to color them a slightly different color, for having invaded into Afghanistan, but Pakistan promises not to invade into any other countries in order to get into the Anti-Aggression Alliance. Let's talk about a country we haven't talked about at all yet in the series, or two I should say, Indonesia and East Timor. And I don't really want to color in all of Indonesia, so this is going to be pretty simple, but East Timor never really stood a chance. They were basically relying on international diplomacy, but after that stops being a thing, Indonesia pretty quickly conquers them. A similar thing is going to happen to Brunei and Malaysia, and I'm going to spare you the details on that one. Okay, next up, Singapore doesn't really show well on this map, but Malaysia is going to attempt an invasion of Singapore, and it's actually going to be going quite poorly, because Singapore is going to have to be besieged, and Malaysia is going to be pretty sorely humiliated when Singapore sends a boat with a few hundred soldiers or a few hundred Marines, and just wrecks some Malaysian, I don't know if this is countryside or urban, I think it's more countryside, just for fun. And Malaysia will obviously take this back and put even more force into conquering Singapore, but they're only going to be able to conquer a little bit more of the city. And then Singapore is just going to call out the big guns, as Indonesia will come to their aid, and by come to their aid, I mean invade a completely separate part of Malaysia just because they want the land. and it's going pretty well. And Malaysia decides it's not worth invading Singapore because they want to focus on defending their home territory. So Singapore is given freedom, and now it's Malaysia versus Indonesia. And unfortunately for Malaysia, they are probably not going to be able to do well. And so once their former Brunei territory is taken, they decide to have a limited surrender to hopefully keep some of their land. Okay, we're going to do one last thing this video, but it's going to be a very important thing. India and China will formalize their alliance, and very shortly afterwards, it will be joined by Indonesia. So I hope you enjoyed this episode of Asian Battle Royale. This was episode 2 of the series. If you enjoyed it, make sure to like and subscribe and comment down below who you think is going to win. And with that, thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.